Howdy. Howdy, what's up?
Hello.
You hear me? What's up,
Hey,
man?
yeah, are you doing a live show?
Yeah, we're live right now.
I want to make a can I make a comment
What?
about what you guys are talking about?
Which part of what? I forget which thing. You would have heard. I was just chatting. But yeah, what's up?
Oh no, the title is like Trump is bad. It says call me,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think they're talking about like abortion and you know this country is split, right? I mean, there's 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 virtually two opposing factions in this country, and then you got independents, right? Some people lean one a little bit to one side, or some of them lean a little bit to the other. They're more concerned like with fiscal policy and but I think the biggest divide is I think abortion's one of the biggest dividers in this country.
Yeah.
And you have one side that they believe that it's murder, that a baby is a baby in conception, and you have the other side that looks at it from a different point. He says, well, it's my body, my choice. And then there's a lot of nuances within each side of that. So what happens is you have these two opposing moralities, and people don't even want to come together to talk about the differences. But one thing I will point
Okay.
out, because I'm a pro-life, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just in all transparency, but the fertility rate of this country is very low as a whole. So we do need immigrants to come in, because the people here that have been born here and are living here, we even the conservative side, we're not having kids anymore like we used to. Like the conservatives, they're not really aborting them. There might be some that's having abortions, they're not telling you, but we're not having the 5 and 10 kid families anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have a drop in fertility rate. So here's where I'm going. If the left is like 100% balls to the wall for abortion, who is who is going to backfill that mentality, right? And then you got the right, and there's a lot of conservatives that are starting to really procreate. And I mean, like I know 3 families, they got over 10 children. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you get one side that is so anti, it's my body, and I get all that, right? So you're not backfilling the pipeline, right? So you're actually diminishing your population. Then you got the other side that they're going on a fertility fest. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
within 20 years, I mean, and I just want to bring that to light. What do you think about that? Like,
Well, like
because it's like I want to be a responsible human. I want to have everything set up before I have kids. Next thing you know, you're 35, 40 years old, and you can only have 2 kids. You know what I mean? Because so if it's just you and another person, you have 2 children, you have zeroed out. You're only maintaining, right?
yeah, the big
So
thing right now is that like in red states, for example, if I know someone, I would recommend not having a kid in those states, depending on what their laws are, because there's women who have miscarriages who don't get the care they need because doctors are afraid of doing anything because the states will call it murder, even if a doctor does a medical procedure, and doctors are scared to be taken to court for a lot of that stuff. So I'm even telling people like don't have kids in that scenario because if your wife, for example, like imagine I have my I guess someone pregnant and we're having a kid and she has a birth complication and the doctor won't give her the care she needs because he's like, well, I don't know if she's close enough to being dead for the law to let me give her care because she needs to be like exactly dying for them to administer care. So like there's no number on her head that says like 10% dead, 20% dead, 30% dead, 50% dead. So the doctor might have to go in when she's 80% dead, or the law will say that he did an unnecessary abortion. So that's one concern that I would bring up. And also, like, if we're not going to care about the environment at all, environment, I know liberals don't want to have kids if the environment's not being taken care of because there is issues with the climate changing, and farmers are going to know that because crop seasons are going to change. That still is an issue. Insurance companies are pricing in climate change, so are oil companies, because it is a thing that's happening. Even if it's not climate change, there's mercury being shot out of coal plants, which Trump is removing regulations on that. Mercury and other chemicals and cancerous chemicals that these factories are dumping in our water. So yeah, it's not really an environment people want to have kids in, especially in a rich country. And I would say on the immigration part, right now Trump is deporting green card holders and visa holders at universities because they say something that's pro-Israel. Or no, I'm sorry, anti-Israel. Sorry. It's not even really anti-Israel. It's just like pro-Palestine. Sorry. But yeah, they're saying things that are
Yeah.
pro-Palestine, and Trump administration and Marco Rubio, they're like, oh, that's a thought crime. It's a thought crime. You have an opinion we don't approve of, we're gonna kick you out. Which is what like China and Russia do. So if we're gonna have that mentality, immigration made this country great. Like immigration really did. If you look at the Irish and the Chinese and the railroads and the research we have today, and now they want to ban Harvard from bringing in students that study abroad because Harvard won't bow down to the federal government's wishes. Like in this environment, it's pretty this environment creates a foundation in our society that's going to be going backwards as far as building things goes, and the tariffs are making trade wars with all of our allies. We're taking a pro-Russia stance versus Ukraine now, explicitly pro-Russia. So there's a lot of reasons why we're becoming more destabilized. But I agree that immigrants, immigrants have a lower crime rate than naturally born American citizens. Immigrants are very, as far as any population of people goes, even illegal immigrants do violent crime at a very low rate. But we're anti-immigrant now in America because they've been demonized to hell. And yeah, and Biden's bad handling of the border, right? So Biden gave a even worse view of immigration. So I don't know where we go from here because Trump is tanking a lot of our shit with that kind of stuff.
I'm not anti-immigrant at all.
And by the
I
way,
I
I
would
don't think
want
Trump's a conservative.
the
By the way, I don't
law to
think
be
Trump's a
followed.
conservative. So when I say Trump, I'm not talking about you. I think you sound like a principled
No,
conservative. Trump is not a conservative at all. So I'm not talking about you when I talk about
he's
him.
not. You see, like back in the mid to late '80s, I was young then. Um, the Republican Party hijacked the Christian movement, so they merged into one. And what I noticed, because I went through, I remember going, my parents driving us to when Reagan was running against Mondale. Okay, that's how far back my memory goes. But then I remember George Bush, the first one. Okay, that's about around the time that the Christians kind of merged and solidified with the Republicans. And then what's funny is it was back then. I remember like Two Live. You've heard of Two Live Crew? It's
Sure.
like it was a rap group back in the day. Okay,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were being jailed for profanity at the rap concerts.
yeah. I
You
remember
know,
that stuff. Yeah. Well, I wasn't alive, but I
yeah,
remember. I read about it.
yeah. I mean, I went through it. And well, anyway, long story short. So all these years, you would vote, diehard Republican. I'm just giving you my growing up, example. Nothing changed. Like it all progressed to where we're at today. We're all, and sometime in the late '90s, it dawned on me. They, I'll give you an example. I talked to some congressmen at one time I met. They fight on television, but they
Yeah,
all
they're
drinking at the
friends. Yeah.
bar together behind the cameras. They're all buddies. I mean, there's some of them that's probably really do not like each other, but the majority of them, you got the left here, you got the right there. They're fighting, they're arguing on TV. Then when the cameras go off, they're up in the bars in D.C., Reston, Fairfax, you name it.
Yeah.
They're all in there together,
I know
hanging
people that had
out.
cancer. Like, I remember seeing someone with cancer during COVID asking people to wear masks in the room, and the Republican said no. And this was the heat of COVID. And after the meeting, the Republican apologized to him, and he's like, "I can't be on camera wearing a mask. Like, I don't want to do this around you because you don't want to get you
Yeah,
sick, but like, I can't be on camera wearing a mask because Republicans knew it was an issue for their voters because that was just like a dumb culture war thing at the time." But yeah, I
you,
appreciate the call.
yeah, no problem. Can I make one more point? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to
sure,
take your
yeah.
whole show up or
No,
anything,
you're good. You're
but
good.
like, you know what? Okay, I honestly think Donald Trump, love him or hate him, I think he's trying to do something good for the country. I really do think that. Does he go? He says a lot of crap, yes, and it's not taste, it's tasteless. But I also think he has an ego, and he's pissed off that they try to jail him and this and that. And I just think he's always been that type of person where he's like the alpha dog. It's always been that way, and he is who he is, and love him or hate him,
He's a
he's going
whiner,
to
dude. He
impose his.
whines all the time. I've never heard a human being cry that much. Like I've never heard a grown man cry as much as he does. Oh, life is so unfair. How dare you ask me a tough question? He just doesn't answer questions
I know,
anymore. But
I
no, like
know,
the felonies from New
yeah, man.
York, he did those felonies. He did do those felonies. He did do a lot of the 2020 election stuff. So those are, I mean, a lot of the stuff he got sued 4,000 times before becoming a politician, in his
He's
business
he's
and
a
was found guilty for a
professional
lot of things.
litigant,
So
right?
well, there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, he's in there a lot. But I mean, just in general, I just want to look at things politicians do. I don't care as much about what they say, and I think we all need to take a step back and try to, go through party lines and just see where we can come to an agreement. So, like abortion, I try to tell people like, if you disagree with abortion, I would never expect your tax dollars to go there. But I would say that you could be pro-life and pro-choice. 65% of Americans think there should be no limits on abortion. But there's a lot of Republicans in swing states where they feel safe because they have like a Democratic governor who vote Republican, so they don't care that much. But it's still a vast majority that think abortion should be legal in some or all cases. So yeah, it's a pretty strong issue, and it's really hard to, if you think it's like if it's murder to end, like if you think IVF is murder, for example, because you get eggs fertilized and you throw some of them out, then it's hard to have that conversation. So it's hard to come to an agreement if someone is really hardlined on, that belief. But yeah, you can respond to that, and yeah, thank you for the call.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. As far as like IVF and things like that, I mean, birth control. Yeah, I don't have no problems with that. I just think, I believe at some point after conception, I mean, I think it's a miraculous thing that happens, and I get if there's a medical complication and the mother's you know going to die, or you got a choice to make. It's a decision I don't ever want to have to make, and I would hope nobody else would ever have to make that. And I think I would feel terrible. Like, I'll give you an example. I've got a 23-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Okay, the last one, my wife was considered a geriatric uh, pregnancy. This little guy's the best thing that's ever happened. Like, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but
And
the legal side is the scary part, right? When the government is saying you need to do this, or we're gonna come at you with guns and take you to a jail. So like that's my big thing, is that like women who may be having complications. There's already stories, you could look them up. Like for example, in Ohio, a 10-year-old girl got raped and she wanted an abortion, but it was 2 days past the six week ban in Ohio that she was pregnant. So she had to drive to Indiana, and the doctor in Indiana that gave this 10-year-old an abortion. Then got like in trouble legally, and like they were calling on the state medical board to penalize her. There's women from South Carolina, Texas, who had to try, like I think South Carolina or Georgia, a woman from Georgia, had to drive while bleeding out to North Carolina. She died on her way there because no doctors in the red states would help her, because there's a legal team where it's like you go to a courtroom, you talk to a doctor, or you have a doctor there with a judge. If the judge tells that doctor, I don't agree with your medical analysis, that doctor can go to jail and be tried for actual murder. So it's a really scary environment. The
yeah,
big government controlling that is my big thing, where it's like you can say you think it's morally bad, but it's hard to say because like there's other arguments for why people would be pro-choice to an extent. So like pro-choice up until the fetus would be able to survive on its own, which is after like 20 something weeks. The parts in your brain that allow for you to have any thought or consciousness or even neural impulses in your brain for your brain to function is sometime between 20 and 24 weeks as well. So usually what people would say is for elective abortions, then around 20 weeks would be a number people give. And then for medical abortions, they would say there should be no limits on medical abortion because if a doctor who's certified by a state medical board makes a decision that they need to do this to save the woman's life or because it'll be great harm upon the woman, it should not be a judge's decision. It should always be the doctor's decision. Just because we can't be, we're not God. We can't make the right decision every time, but we should give the doctors to do what they need to do for people's health care.
I hear you, man.
Yeah,
Um,
but I appreciate talking to someone who because you obviously have your beliefs, but you do sound really principled, which I appreciate because right now we're full of people who are not principled. I believe a lot of people that call in just follow politicians as like heroes and stuff, and I think that's bad. We should never what's it called again? Idolatry, viewing people as idols or saying like this person's chosen by God or this person is God. I
right.
don't like people comparing a man to God or saying that God chose that person alone because that it sounds like you're trying to be a king or a monarch who says that your power is from God or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate that you're
Yeah.
principled and everything. I appreciate yeah and sharing all your beliefs and everything.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, I just was scrolling through YouTube, man. It came on your thing, man. So let I, I'll tell you this. Me and my wife, my daughter, they're up looking at colleges. I got a son; he's about to graduate college, and then one's going into college this year, and we got a 2-year-old now. We were ready. We were getting ready for an empty nest, and we got a decent sized house, whatever. And I sit here. I'm looking at my son right now. He's watching this little kid cruise show on. They do tractors, whatever. And I'm like, how lonely would we would be. And I, what I'm trying to put a little bit of perspective in everything because I think we live in a culture now where the convenient thing is to just work on your career, work on yourself, work. It's all about us and this and children. It's painted almost like they're like a baggage, and it's hard. And you know what? Yeah, if you have kids when you're in your 20s or you're a teenager, yeah, you're going to struggle because you know you're not in. It's not in the right order, you know. But as a I was 45 when my wife got pregnant with our. If I would have had all my children now, yeah, I would. Like the years of my first two, yeah, they were stressful. Yeah, I was up to my eyeballs in debt, and I was driving beaters, and you know, yeah, it was rough. But yeah, we stuck together, and we're on the other side, and we're blessed with this new one. And I'm like, man, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to go. I'm going to go to work, not have my wife. She'll go to work. We'll come home, and it's like there's no pitter patter on the floor, no toys. It'll just be like a. And then people will say, well, go skydiving, go do this, dude. I can go out to eat at a restaurant every day, and it gets old. And then you want a home cooked meal, then that gets old. Then you want to go back to the restaurant, that gets old. And then you want to put flowers in your yard, right? And then that will get old. You dig some up, you put some new ones, that gets old. But one thing that's never gets old is having a little one. This is just me, and it's a lot of people. Having somebody that you can see the innocence in them, and they look at you like you're the best thing that's ever been, and it just fills your heart with love. Because on this YouTube, I see the comments. I don't see love. When I go out in the streets, and people cutting each other off in traffic, I don't see love. I don't feel it. I go to work, the office culture, I don't feel it. But you got this little guy, little girl, whoever, looking at you like, man, that's my dad. That's my mama, dude. To me, it's just if more people could experience that, I think it would make society better. But
Yeah, I
sorry, I don't
think
mean to be.
the issue is like we don't like our communities and our government doesn't care about people. Even compared to like Europe's governments and whatever. We talk about like cutting taxes and cutting programs. But we're the only country, we're the only first world country that doesn't guarantee like paid family medical leave to parents. You know, other countries guarantee that. Other countries help pay for childcare for families that can't afford it. So like, we could create an environment that's more friendly and more community oriented, and talk about providing for one another. But in America, it's radical capitalism. It's just like, I want money, I want profits, I want to make profits right now. How dare you ask a billionaire to pay taxes? They're gonna suffer if they're a billionaire and they pay taxes. How dare you penalize them? And it's like, they should be lucky they're on this earth. They should be lucky they're in this country that allowed them to be so successful. They should pay back into the same system so we can all be successful. Because we work for them, we make money for really rich people. So why don't they pay back into it? But in America, we're just going against those values. And I see this a lot where, like, conservatives focus more on, like you were talking about, like the direct family, focusing a lot just on what's happening in your home, which I think, the left focuses more on like all of society, right? So like you'll hear conservatives talk more about family values or in the home or what they see as family values, but then liberals will talk about like equal rights in society or civil rights, and like more broad reaching things. I just wish we could find a combination of those that has, love and empathy for our families and also our communities, and we can create an environment that's good for building, that people want to be a part of. But right now, I feel like we're just going towards more and more conflict. And I would say that the president is probably one of the most divisive people, and not for the best reasons that we've had, including fighting our allies. And I just don't see any uniting message in this country. I hope a leader comes up eventually. I haven't seen them yet, but I hope a leader comes up to prominence who can share that message, so we can come together and find a vision for the future. But if anyone's too hardlined on things, or they can't listen to everyone, and they can't like change their minds, then we're not going to get any better. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing, and yeah, thank you for showing your passion you have for your family and your kids and everything, and then hopefully we can create a better world for everyone. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing and calling in.
All right. Thank you. You have a good night, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, you too, man.